The WWE and pro wrestling as a whole used to be amazing. It used to have such a magic to it. It used to be cool, relevant. It was even discussed positively in the mainstream. So what went wrong? When did WWE and pro wrestling as a whole, for lack of a better term, die? In this video, I will explain why despite some awesome moments, storylines and matches that have taken place since this specific date, pro wrestling has never ever recovered. The Monday Night Wars were responsible for millions upon millions upon millions of people becoming wrestling fans. Whether you loved the WWF and stuck tried and true to Vince McMahon's federation, or you're all about Ted Turner and Eric Bischoff's World Championship Wrestling taking it to Vince's World Wrestling Federation, regardless of which company you enjoyed most, the winner in that period was both professional wrestling and anyone who supported it. Pro wrestling was cool, it was hip, it was in the mainstream for good, for the most part. Pro wrestling galvanized pop culture with its use of in-your-face, compelling, edgy entertainment. As we hit 1998, the WWF took the lead in the Monday Night Wars, and they never looked back, making the most of the magic created by Austin versus McMahon, alongside a supporting cast which it was simply excellent. Meanwhile, World Championship Wrestling were going into a tailspin, from giving away Goldberg vs Hulk Hogan for the WCW World Heavyweight and United States Championships in front of 40,000 people on a random throwaway Nitro episode, to Tony Schiavone telling everyone that was watching WCW Nitro that Mick Foley was winning the WWF title later that night on Raw, and having 600 people change the channel immediately because of that. WCW was becoming a mess. It was turning into a tailspin. World Championship Wrestling, time in and time out, shot themselves in the foot. Ultimately, WCW found themselves on their deathbed in 2001, following a tumultuous 2000. WCW 2000, if you weren't aware, is infamous for being the absolute worst year for any wrestling promotion in the history of the industry. Some of the absolute worst, most disastrous content you'll ever see went down in WCW 2000. So, that led us to March 23rd, 2001, the day Vince McMahon officially acquired World Championship Wrestling from Turner Broadcasting Station, officially bringing to an end the Monday Night Wars, and with it, bringing to an end the days of pro wrestling having legitimate competition. On the March 26, 2001 episode of Monday Night Raw, this purchase of World Championship Wrestling was utilized within the Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon feud heading into WrestleMania 17 that coming Sunday. I just want to say, it's always amazed me how something as monumental in the wrestling world like WCW being purchased by Vince McMahon was merely one factor in a multi-layered storyline like that Vince and Shane McMahon match, which was only the co-main event of WrestleMania 17. That wasn't even like the main match of the show, and it had WCW being purchased as like a co-story within the bigger story of Vince and Shane. Just amazing. But anyway, many of you recall the now infamous line where Shane McMahon said, "The name on the contract says McMahon. Shane McMahon." That line further signified the death of the competition and reinforced that World Championship Wrestling was then and now under the McMahon family empire. This particular date, March 23rd, 2001, represents Vince McMahon gaining a full monopoly conglomerate over the pro wrestling market. The date represents Vince McMahon owning pro wrestling. Because yes, while you've had other notable, worthwhile North American wrestling promotions since, such as TNA or, as it's now known, Impact Wrestling, you've had Ring of Honor, you've had GFW, and nowadays you have All Elite Wrestling. None of them have even scratched the surface at truly threatening Vince McMahon the way Ted Turner and World Championship Wrestling did during the Monday Night Wars. Now, perhaps All Elite Wrestling can be a real legit competitor, and hell, even take over pro wrestling 5 to 15 years down the line. But by then, how relevant will pro wrestling be in the mainstream? It's already dead now. How relevant will pro wrestling be then? Will there be another boom period where All Elite Wrestling is at the forefront of it? Do you really see that happening? I mean, it could, but I highly doubt it. Like, this March 23rd, 2001 date was so significant because it came within the glory days of pro wrestling. It came within a period where pro wrestling with legit mainstream superstars still existed, when WWE and the wrestling world could penetrate into the mainstream for more than just a random celebrity appearance, or more than just Triple H going on ESPN to discuss Pat McAfee's upcoming match with Adam Cole, okay? Pro wrestling was in the mainstream and it was relevant, and that's why this March 23rd, 2001 date was so important. Ever since this date, March 23rd, 2001, pro wrestling has had a number of sensational periods, be that the SmackDown 6 in 2002 after the brand split, and that whole time period for SmackDown with Paul Heyman at the helm writing creatively, be that the Ruthless Aggression era altogether, The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels and everything they did at WrestleMania 25 and 26, Batista and John Cena and their ascension to becoming megastars, particularly the former, not so much Cena, and plenty of great pro wrestling has taken place since March 23rd, 2001, but on that same token, it just hasn't been the same. From the invasion angle that was botched beyond belief, where Vince had Mr. WWF, Stone Cold Steve Austin, leading the WCW mid-card into a battle against Team WWF and their All-Star team. You go from that to the 2002 brand split, which made Monday Night Raw, let's just say, not the greatest creatively, featuring Katie Vick and other highly confusing attempts at entertainment. Or do I bring up that mess in 2006? Like, what even was 2006, featuring Vince McMahon versus God? Or the disastrous year that was 2007 outside of the ring, and then in turn the shift to the family-oriented entertainment and all that kind of stuff in 2008 in the PG era, and everything that came with the PG era, such as the Super Cena squashing the Nexus stuff, Super Cena being a corny G-rated goof, the Raw guest hosts, oh, that was so bad. The Raw guest hosts, fam, oh my god. You had the Muppets, I remember the Muppets getting involved on Raw, you had Santina Marella winning the Divas, 25 years of Divas Battle Royal at WrestleMania 25, the gimmick pay-per-views, having Hell in a Cell and TLC and all these shows being their own pay-per-view. Oh my god, the lack of effort creatively. Ever since March 23rd, 2001, professional wrestling, it's never been the same. And I think it's safe to say, given that the pro wrestling and WWE died on March 23rd, 2001, the ratings have tanked ever since, the interest has taken a dive through the floor, and it basically hasn't recovered since. It really is, at this point in 2020, truly embarrassing to publicly say that you're a wrestling fan, and that's all because of this one day, March 23rd, 2001, where WWE died. And that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave down below whether you agree with this date, March 23rd, 2001, as being the day where WWE died. If you do, then hit the subscribe button and stay tuned to the channel as I soldier through dead wrestling content, all for your entertainment. But yeah, without further ado, see ya.